Hello, if you are on this page, I want to first introduce myself. My name is Katie Potterella. I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and mold exposure and illness is one of my main areas of focus and expertise. I have been through mold illness myself and was dealing with my own health crisis as well as the crisis of my infant at the time son's health as well. So I have personal experience with this, and it's what drove me to do this work. So if you're on this page, I want to explain how I work and why this particular container exists. The strategy calls are not really something I offer outside of mold exposure and mold illness. And the reason for that is I've lived it myself. I know what the brain fog is like. I know how confusing it is to get good advice or how easily it is to be steered wrong when you're trying to navigate an active mold situation. I know all about the neurotoxic effects and how hard it is to even complete a sentence or finish a thought sometimes. And I understand the overwhelm. So this is a more condensed, almost like triage type of situation that I don't give in the one-on-one sessions that are much longer containers. Those are 4 or 8 month long containers, typically for people that have chronic health conditions, sometimes as a result of mold, um, but also for lots of other reasons. But that's not what these calls are about. This specific page you won't find linked anywhere. You either were sent this directly from me or a remediator that I have a relationship with, who I trust. Um, so that you have this offer that's kind of exclusive just to people who are in an active mold situation. So as I mentioned, I lived this special type of mold hell myself. Um, if you're in it now, you know exactly what I mean. I followed some very dogmatic mold strategies with some practitioners I worked with, who absolutely helped me to a degree, but none of them actually healed me. I worked with professionals for over 4 years and did not fully heal. And I personally, knowing what I know now with the education that I now have, do not think that it should have taken that long. I think that with some minor tweaks um, and changes to how I was managed, it could have gone a lot faster and I could have spent a lot less money and time sick. And I know that's true because I've gone back and applied the knowledge I have and seen massive results in under a year that I did not see in the 4+ years prior to that. So this experience sent me back to school. This is why I became a practitioner. It shaped everything about how I approach mold today. So I like to think of mold as house on fire type of situation. So when you're in the house that's on fire, all you need to focus on is getting out. You don't need to worry about your bathroom and what's happening to it and how you're going to rebuild it and what kind of tile you want in your new bathroom, right? You're not picking out curtains. You're just trying to get out of the house. You're trying to get stable. You're trying to get safe. That's what these mold strategies are basically for. These are focus sessions where we're going to look at your exposure context, which varies dramatically from person to person. We're going to look at your symptoms and we're going to look at what you're doing currently to reduce or eliminate your exposure, which often includes remediation. So my goal is not to give you a massive checklist of 100 things we need to do, and it's not to give you a plan for the next 6 months or year at this stage. You may very well need a longer term chronic health type of investigation situation, but that's not likely what you need at this very moment if you're in the thick of it, right? So the goal of these sessions is clarity, and not a plan for the next year, right? Like we just want to get you as healthy as we can, get you dealt with the current situation you're in as far as exposure goes. And then that other deeper work is saved for later when you have more capacity and are in a better place to do that work. So I love functional lab testing. This context and these calls, this container is not about not testing. So if anybody has explored the other work I do, you know that we start with a lot of upfront testing, and there's a very good reason for that. And I love those tests, and you may very well need every single one of them later. But right now, what we need to focus on is just the immediate kind of acute situation tests that are really going to move the needle and change what we're going to do. There's a lot of tests we could do right now that tell us a lot of things about some of the downstream effects that mold can have on the body and different areas of the body. But the reality is, a lot of those things we cannot fully address now, or we're going to have to readdress if we try to while you're still in an active exposure situation. So I'm always trying to be a good steward of your your finances, your care, your situation, and not try to pile on too much too early when it's not really going to change what we're going to do and it's not really going to give us actionable steps at this point. So that's why we're not going to dive in with five or six or seven tests. We may do one or two. We may need to confirm that the mold that is in your body is the same as we're seeing in your home. We may need to see how you're detoxing it, how much is coming out, these kind of things. But a lot of the testing that I would do with somebody in a chronic health situation needs to, frankly, wait until later because we're not going to be able to do a lot with it at this moment if you're still in an active mold situation. And that was partly how I was mismanaged. So I have a very specific way that I view this in terms of working with people so that I don't repeat the mistakes that were made with me. And then I also don't throw a whole bunch of expensive testing at you that you're not ready for, your body's not ready for, and frankly, we don't need yet because it's not going to change anything. If we do it now, a lot of times we're going to have to redo it again later. So you've just paid for the test twice. Now, there are always exceptions to the rules. If those come up as we work together, I'll obviously bring them up and we'll talk about them. But that's not really what this particular container is about. As I've already said, it's about kind of like a triage, actionable, kind of quick and dirty way to deal with the situation that you're in. And all that work can come later and very well may need to come later. I hope all of this is making sense. I want to just be really transparent about the way that I work. Um, I know that remediation is expensive. I know how much it costs to deal with mold, and I'm very sensitive to that. At the same time, I'm not going to tell you to avoid something you really need to do because of cost. I'll be a realist the whole way through. But I do also want to be transparent about any labs that we do. I do not mark them up. I give them to you at my practitioner pricing. All of the money that I make is based on my labor and time spent with you, and you always know what that is. I'm also not a remediator. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not an MD, I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. And my role is to be an educator, and my role is to help you think clearly and make grounded decisions and be a springboard if that's what you need in this moment, and help you just navigate the situation you're in with the most knowledge and education that I can provide to you. So, this offer is for people who feel confused, feel like they need clarity, know that they're in mold, know that you have an active situation, or possibly very recently did. Maybe you just escaped from a moldy workplace or a gym you were going to every day or something. Um, I'm not here for dogma. I'm here for my lived experience and lived approach, and with a lot of knowledge about where I was failed in this process. And I'm just basically here to do what I can to help you heal yourself. Because ultimately, I can be an educator in this space, but you're the one that's going to have to implement and do the things that are required to get into a more healthy space and get your body back to balance, which this all can be very scary and confusing, but I do want to highlight the fact that your body is not broken. It is immaculately, beautifully designed to protect you. And a lot of the things we see in a mold situation have a lot to do with some of those protective mechanisms. And your body giving you symptoms is trying to tell you something, and you absolutely can heal. I say that from a place where in the beginning of my mold journey, I had no idea what was happening. I could barely string a sentence together at times. And I really felt like I'd never get my brain back. I just want to leave you with that, that you absolutely can heal. What you're experiencing is not in your head. The symptoms are across the board. They can look very different for your son or your daughter or your husband. And this really wrecks people's health in 100 different ways, and it looks different for every single person. If this resonates with you, you are welcome to book a single call. Most people are going to need more than one, but if you just want to get to know me and just start with a single call, go for it. If you want to go ahead and book a session of three, where we know that we're going to dive into your situation as you're going through a remediation or as you're dealing with your space. You can do that too. It's a little bit cheaper that way, across three calls. But I'm here for you in whatever way makes sense at this time. And I hope that this container really gets you the clarity that you need. If you're here on this call watching this video, you're seeking clarity. So I really would love to help you through whatever you're going through. So if you're interested, book a call.